Hello everyone, this is Tribecast and we're happy to be back from holidays. This week I have invited to our studio two guests. First, Raul Berlanga will tell us more about new factory, and then Kelly Keodara will share the plans of Tampere Es for the next half a year and also give us a little bit of a spoiler of the Startup World Cup. My name is Marina, this is Tribecast. Welcome back. We have news, we have stuff to tell you, we have events to welcome you to, and we have our first guest in our studio today. My name is Marina, this is Tribecast. Let's just talk about startup life probably. Hello Raul, thank you very much for having time for this interview today. Let's do the classic thing. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, well, first off, thank you, Marina, very much for the invitation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Raul Berlanga, and as well, partly involved in Spinout Lab, which is our current startup activities. We've now focused on research-based spin-offs from the University of Tampere, and most specifically, the Hervanta campus.
So basically you tackle the problem of science being very theoretical with this kind of projects, as I said. Because in my understanding, a little bit in my experience, there is constantly this contradiction between science and business. It's either you do something which your heart is in, or you do it for money. So you basically drive those two together.
Right, yeah, especially about the latter, about Spinout Lab. So yeah, that's basically the idea. Not letting research die as such, but rather taking that research which is born at the university and which is often very valuable if the right angle is found. So taking that research forward and turning it into business or going somewhere in between, as you say. So going from science to business, so to speak.
And how is the application working? Say I work for the University of Jyväskylä and I have some research which I find potentially interesting for you.
At the moment, we are more focused or solely focused on the University of Tampere. So those when a researcher thinks that he or she would like to have the result of their work go somewhere else, there's different ways they can find some funding to take the initial steps of going from research to business. And if there's fruitful results to those activities, then and then there's a company being born out of that. That's when Spinout Lab comes in. So once the company is formed as such, that's where we come in and we offer different kind of coaching help. And one of the main angles we're looking for is actually connecting those startups and industry. As of now, so the focus is the University of Tampere, but it is somewhat in our idea and into the future once we have more traction to definitely open up not just to universities, but any sort of technology-based, research-based spin-offs.
And speaking about this power, basically you said that, if I got you right, the idea is that you help students to get a job in a startup after they graduate or already while they're students.
Yes, no, it's actually the idea is while they are studying. So it's a program that falls under the Erasmus Plus framework. So the idea is to, just as you would go on an exchange period as a student, then you could go instead or additionally to it on a period where you are doing an internship or a placement in a startup abroad.
And we're talking about jobs, so it's a paid internship.
This is something that depends because obviously we're talking about startups.
That was basically my question.
Yeah. As such, we do not force startups to have paid positions, but we do encourage some sort of remuneration. But because students, they as part of the Erasmus Plus framework, they are able to get some financing from the EU. So that's how students would be able to kind of fund their stay or period while they're abroad.
How eager startups are participating in this kind of projects? Because I think that for companies who are in, say, middle stage, we don't take like really early stage who are happy to have any kind of help, and we don't take those big enough who are stable. But if we take someone middle stage, I think I see that they're quite often very reluctant and very afraid of, having an extra person who would drag attention from the team, because you need to coach a person in most situations, and then it would be a bit useful or useless. And again, if it's an internship, it's max a year. So that's quite a short period.
Yeah, we're talking internships anywhere from 3 to 9 months. And so far, the few startups that we've contacted, they've been somewhat on board with the idea. We have not yet gotten to a stage where we contact multiple and start up after the other, but we are getting to that point soon. And yeah, we do expect some level of startups maybe not getting quite on board. Then again, we don't expect every single startup to have a student on board. It does take, as you say, it does take a bit of time getting someone to come, introducing them to your startup, to your idea, to the stage of business where you are. So it definitely does require something from the startup. But the idea is that the benefit that they would get would be greater than that. Definitely, as you say, there will be some reluctancy.
Have you personally worked in a startup?
I was working for close to a year in the it could be considered a startup in the paper industry. I was there most of 2018.
I know you're an international talent. Was it easy for you to find a job? And how did you end up in, a startup world?
Definitely not. I think most internationals can agree that there's a bit of a barrier in one way or another. How I actually came up to get a foothold in my first job and then eventually the next was through Demola or through these Demola projects. So when I was a student, I ended up doing 3 projects just because I liked what was going on. There were interesting challenges, interesting companies. And by the time I completed my 3rd project and I graduated, I got offered a position as a facilitator because they saw that I had the fit for the position and they just happened to have an opening. So that's kind of how I got my first job. And then my next job and the one after sort of followed from that, from being in that environment and networking and getting to know the right people, so to speak.
If our listeners would like to know more about Demola, we already had Demola representatives in the previous season and probably would have them again. What kind of opportunities can offer New Factory in general for businesses? What kind of help? Do you have any open events where people can come and network?
At the moment, we are not having or holding those type of events. We are actually moving from Finlayson to the university. So it is a bit unfortunate. And during this transition period, we need to kind of get everything together. We will have a space at the university in the Harvanta campus, which we will define, see how that works. The idea is obviously to build a community with some other initiatives as well. But in the meantime, I'm afraid that we don't have those many events or kind of openings. We're, of course, very, very welcome of people coming to us. But as such, let's say that it's on hold. It's not canceled, but it's on hold, all those type of events.
But you still keep the name, though you're not in the factory anymore.
Yes, well, yeah, the name is the company. It's obviously it's associated with Finlayson and Aldeon factory, but the name is still there. But as far as it comes to the startup activities, then we are rebranding to Spinout Lab as such.
All right. Would you offer some kind of maybe discount spaces? Because I know that New Factory has, at least in the good old times, you had the office spaces for rent. Would you have any kind of support if there are any student startup entrepreneurs? Or will it be like, if you're a startup, then play grown up and pay with full price?
Well, I can clarify that very quickly. So the space that was there, the co-working space, was not our own. So we were there kind of hosting and managing, but it's actually Varma who is the owner of the space, and Varma Works is the name of the co-working space. But actually the reason why we're moving is because Varma is sort of clearing out that space for new purposes. So that co-working space will soon be out of use. So I'm afraid that as such, we don't have any desk for rent or so.
All right. But you have some experience to share and some cool stories to tell.
Absolutely. And always willing to have a conversation and have people over.
Maybe there is one question that I would like to ask you, and probably I would be asking it for quite a while now. Do I see you during the Startup World Cup in March?
I think definitely, yes. I have to yet put it into my calendar, but it's something that will be definitely there.
All right. I would like to remind our listeners that in March, Tampere is hosting the national finals of Startup World Cup, and the winner will be able to go to Czech Republic to compete in the European competition. And then, of course, we will cheer for the startup that goes there and hope that it will win and go to the Silicon Valley. But anyways, it's going to be a big and interesting and awesome possibility for networking and learning new things and listening to cool speeches. So you have a possibility to apply as a startup. You have a possibility to be a visitor and meet me and Raul and some other interesting people. And of course, there is a volunteer application open. And I would like to make a bit of a spoiler that next week we will most likely have some representatives of the organizers of the Startup World Cup team who will tell us more about what's happening this year. But for now, thank you very much, Raul, for this interview.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we have one more guest for this week, and this is amazing Kelly. Kelly, thank you very much for having time for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
Second part of working week, so we're all a bit slowing down, I guess. Let's start from introducing you to our listeners because you're definitely a new face and a new voice. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Kelly Keodara and I come from the U.S. I have been living in Finland for about 5 years already, but I've been living in Tampere for 2.5 years. I came here to study at the university to do my master's. I did my master's in media education and I absolutely love it here. So what I'm trying to do is expand my network, and which is why I am here at Tribe and also a part of Tampere Es.
Right, and for our listeners, I'd like to remind that we're recording our podcast in the cozy studio at P47 co-working space, and the official working hours of P47 are Monday to Friday, 10 to 6. This is the time when you can basically come and say hi and have coffee and talk and sit down with your laptop and work and whatever else. There are possibilities, and also there is the event season around, so pretty much every day there is at least one small event that you can visit and meet new people and network.
And it's a fantastic space.
Yay! And this is why Tampere Es is having Tampere Es brunch. Could you please tell us more about your role within Tampere Es and what are the plans of the organizations for the next half a year, let's say?
Yes. So my role in Tampere Es is the events and marketing specialist role, which just means that I take care of the social media, all of the communication aspects from the society to the public, and also developing the events. And like you had said, there is a brunch coming up next week on January 29th at 9:30 at Tribe. It is absolutely free for all, so please come. And as far as the rest of the year, what we are trying to do is to have Tampere Es as a platform for mainly university students who want to broaden their network, especially in the entrepreneurial aspect. We do a lot with the startup ecosystem here, so we provide a lot of events. One of our most popular events is the After Work, which just happened yesterday, and also the brunch coming up next week. And it's just a time for students and like-minded individuals to get together and network and communicate and, over good food and good drinks.
All right. I know that before you joined Tampere Es, you have tried quite a few things within the startup world. Could you please elaborate on your experience?
Yes. So last year, I actually embarked onto the startup world here in Tampere by working for a startup. It was a tech company. I no longer work for that company, but I would tell you my experience. It was a great experience. It gave me a platform to kind of, in a way, get my feet wet into the ecosystem and also learn how exciting and how challenging it is to be in a startup. And I think that I was there for a year, and I think that whole experience made me a stronger employee and now employer, because ever since then, I've started my own company. Well, it's just me, but I've become an entrepreneur myself. I started freelancing, doing the same work that I did there, which was marketing communications. So now I work for a variety of startups doing the same task, marketing communications. And I realize I see myself using the lessons that I learned from working at a startup now. So it's a great